Signore e signori, è con grande piacere che vi presento il nuovo allenatore.
Hello guys and welcome back to another episode of our EAFC career mode, now here with Juventus in Italy, and we have got such a big job on our hands with this Juve squad. You will have seen previously they finished in third place last season, but we have got so much work to do, so we're just going to dive straight in. Now I'm just going to run you through the squad hub here, and the reason this is such a big challenge and one that I'm so excited for is because, as you'll see, it's quite a small squad at the moment with just 28 players. And the main problem with this squad is the age of the squad as well. We'll take a look in just a moment's time, but you'll see the number of players who are 30 years or older. Now, we've got some real star players, and we've got a few positions that are particularly stacked, namely at centre-back and centre midfield as well. But if we have a look through at the, let's go to age here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players over the age of 30. We've got a few reaching their late 20s here as well. And another of the main issues, if we go to the contract, look how many players have their deals up come the end of the season. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 out of our 28 players with their deals up come the end of the season. This is going to be a proper rebuild job here at Juventus, and I think it's quite fitting because I think in real life they're also in that similar position where they could do with a bit of a rebuild, and they've lost that kind of core that they had sort of 7-8 years ago when they had the likes of Buffon, Chiellini, Bonucci, Barzagli, Marchisio, that real Italian core that they had all those years ago. You remember them reaching a Champions League final where they unfortunately lost to Real Madrid, but some poor recruitment, financial issues, and lots of other issues in the background has meant that they've really struggled over recent years. Obviously, they used to be the dominant side in Italy, and they've now not won the Serie A for, I think it's 3 or possibly 4 years, maybe even longer. It feels like a long time since they last won it. So we are going to be rebuilding this Juventus team, and the first thing I'm actually going to do here is send out our youth scouts. And we've got a 5-star that we're going to set up in Italy, as that just sort of makes sense, keep him in the home nation. Sergio Longo, another Italian. Now what I'm actually going to do is head to South America and send him to Argentina. And of course Juventus have had quite a few Argentinian players over the years. You think of Gonzalo Higuain, Paulo Dybala, Carlos Tevez, Angel Di Maria, Leandro Paredes, who we've used in this save at Sheffield United. So quite a history of Argentine players as well, and they've still got a few in this save. But as for the third youth scout, I'm actually not too sure where to send him, so let's have a little look around. After a little bit of deliberating, I think I'm going to keep my third scout quite close to home. Obviously, we've got a lot of countries to scout in Europe, but I'm actually going to send him over to Portugal, not too far from Italy, of course. Juve have had some star Portuguese players in the past. Of course, Cristiano Ronaldo, to name a few, Joao Cancelo, Thiago, the former Atletico Madrid and Chelsea midfielder as well. So yeah, going to send our scouts to Italy, Argentina and Portugal, and hopefully we can find some young homegrown talent for this Juve rebuild. Now here's a quick look at how I've actually got the team set up. It's in a 4-2-3-1 at the moment, and like I say, we have got some real star quality in this team. Diogo Costa between the sticks is a real good young goalkeeper, obviously in his prime in this stage of the save. We've got some really good centre-backs, Romero, Skriniar, Koundé, all very good, getting on a bit and all into their 30s now, but some really good options. And in the centre of the park as well, De Jong, Jude Bellingham, of course, one of the best in the world. We've got Fagioli on the bench, McKennie, Joelinton, all really, really good options. But beyond that, into the reserves, there's not a huge amount of quality. And I think we've got a real big task on our hands rebuilding this Juve team. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And I think that because we've got such a big rebuild on our hands, we're going to have to split this summer transfer window over a few episodes, because we're not going to fit it into one or two like we normally would. And I think I'm going to spend this first episode just sort of finding our way around the club, the new players, and sort of settling in. We'll probably make a couple of new signings, and we'll look to shift a few players on as well. But primarily, we're just going to be spending this first episode finding our way around the club, working out who we want to keep and who we may potentially look to sell on in this summer transfer window. Because, and those of you that are eagle-eyed may have seen it very briefly, but we have a ridiculous budget for this season. 285 million in the coffers is just a ridiculous amount of money. Obviously, very, very easy to spend that sum of money, and we're probably going to raise some more funds from player sales as well. So we could be looking at a 350, 400 million pound summer rebuild with this Juventus team. So of course, with all that money comes great expectation, and you can see from the board that, well, I quite like this. It's sort of similar objectives to my own. Sign 2 young players, which I like. They want to bring that average age of the squad down, so they want us to sign some young players. But in our on-the-field objectives, they want us to win a treble. Champions League, Serie A, and the Coppa Italia. They want us to win all 3 in our first season at the club. I think before we do anything else, we need to sort out our own house and work out who we actually want to keep at the club and who we're going to look to shift on. So Diogo Costa, great first choice keeper, happy to have him at the club. Szczesny is retiring at the end of the season, so he will probably remain as our number 2 for this campaign. And Garafani, contract up in 11 months, but I will probably give him a new 1-year deal just to keep him as our third choice keeper. Luca Pellegrini, now 30 years of age, not the greatest. I will probably allow him to leave in the summer. Got a bit of a decision to make at centre-back, because Skriniar and Koundé both have their deals up, and Romero as well into their 30s, as I discussed. I think out of those 3, I'm more likely to let Skriniar leave and keep Romero and Koundé. And then we've got quite a few squad players, De Winter, Gonzalez, Brunner, all probably allowed to leave. Barbier as well, 26 years of age and only 74 overall. Duranville, really good player. Joelinton, De Jong, McKennie, Ranocchia, Bellingham, Fagioli, as I say, really strong through the heart of that midfield. Probably going to keep all of these guys, but as I mentioned, they're all getting on a little bit towards their late 20s and early 30s. So if we do have offers for the likes of Joelinton, even De Jong, McKennie, Ranocchia, I'm not necessarily against letting them go and reinvesting that money. Same sort of thing with Greenwood. I like Cristiani. He'll probably get a new deal. Argentine winger who can play through the middle as well. I quite like him. Very, very quick and a decent option off the bench. Sekulov will allow him to leave. 27 years of age, only 72 overall. Christian Flores, another young Argentine, again plays on that right-hand side and can play through the middle, but again looks like a decent young player. We may look to get him out on loan this season alongside Pepe Marino. Those 3 very, very similar to each other, Marino, Flores and Prestiani. Berardi's retiring at the end of the year, so we do have to keep him here. Probably won't feature much as he's going to decrease in stats pretty rapidly. And then in our forward options, Kolo Muani's another one. Deal up at the end of the season. Big fan of Randall Kolo Muani, but if we do get any bids, I'm not going to stand in his way because I wouldn't be against reinvesting that money somewhere else. Hlojek, big fan of this lad. Czech Republic international, although I see him as more of a centre attacking midfielder than an out-and-out striker. So I've actually started the process of converting him back. And Caio Jorge, I will probably allow to leave as well, as he's on a ridiculous wage of 110 grand a week, 27 years of age and not getting any better. So again, I'll probably look to shift him on. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through and transfer list all the players that I'm happy to let go. And I'm also going to start offering some contracts to the players that I know I want to keep for this season. So here are the players that are transfer listed. I don't think we're going to raise a huge amount of funds for a lot of these guys, but they are all on ridiculously high wages. So again, happy to get them off the books. The likes of Barbier, Skriniar, De Winter, Gonzalez, all on such high wages for the level that they're at. Right, so I've just handed out quite a few new contracts to the key players that I want to keep for this upcoming season, which you'll be seeing on screen now. So Jules Koundé has signed a new 2-year extension with the club. Julian Duranville, who's a player I'm excited to use, has signed a 4-year extension. Similarly to Prestiani, also a 4-year extension for him. McKennie and Ranocchia have both signed 1-year extensions with a slight pay cut on their wages. Christian Flores, the young Argentine winger, has signed a 3-year extension. And the big one as well, Jude Bellingham, a 3-year extension for the Englishman as well. So they are the kind of main players that I wanted to tie down. You'll see we've still got a whole host of players with their deals up come the end of the season. A lot of these are going to be shifted on, and a few of them may be offered contracts towards the latter stages of the transfer window or after it is closed, but for now their futures aren't 100% secured for this upcoming campaign. So I'm just going to be running through our transfer hub here of the players that we've got listed for, sorry, not listed, that we've got shortlisted for this upcoming transfer window. Now, I've done a bit of manual searching for some young Italians, as I do want to bring through more of an Italian core. I've also got a few veterans in there. As you know, I love my seasoned vets. A couple of free agents as well, and there are some players that we've used in the save already at Sheffield United. So a whole host of different profiles, different players in all sorts of positions, as to be honest, every single position is basically going to be up for grabs this season. Obviously, new manager coming in. I want the players to impress me, but I will be looking to reinvest that big transfer kitty that we have been given back into the squad. As I say, we've got some real quality in some areas of the pitch. But with us competing in the Champions League this year as well, we're going to need to sort of flesh out that squad a bit, because there's not a huge amount of quality outside the first 11 and reserves. So yeah, loads and loads of players on the shortlist. We're waiting for scout reports for the majority of these, and of course, if you do have any transfer recommendations, then let me know down in the comments, as I'm always looking for you guys to get involved and provide your sort of recommendations on who we should sign as well. But we've had our first bid of the transfer window, but it's for a player that's just signed a new deal, so he's not going to be going anywhere. Jules Koundé, 30 years of age, so he's maybe someone I would have considered selling, but I think out of the centre-backs that we've got, he is one of the best options. So we've had our first transfer offer here for one of the transfer listed players, for Facundo Gonzalez from Palermo. That makes sense, sort of keeping him in Italy. I'm going to try and squeeze a few more pennies out of Palermo. Although we've got that huge transfer budget, I do want to be as savvy as I can with our funds, and with the players that we're selling, try and raise as much money as we can. As we've seen there, a couple of extra 100,000 on that deal, and hopefully Gonzalez will head off to Palermo. We've got loads of young Italians on the shortlist, a lot of them being free agents. And with us having no right back at the club at the moment, I found this young Italian, Stefano D'Angelo, and Aston Villa have approached him. So although I don't have the full scout report back yet, he looks pretty decent, especially physically. Looks like he's very quick, got good stamina, and the technicals we can develop over time. So I'm going to try and bring him in without having the full scout report. So we've agreed a 3-year deal. I'm hoping in regards to wages. Yeah, okay, there we go. They've come in with the first offer. See, I would have gone a hell of a lot lower than that. So I will offer 40,000 a week. 42, do you know what? We'll go to 45. And we'll try and bring the signing on bonus down. And I think Stefano D'Angelo, yep, is going to be our first signing since moving to Juventus. Young Italian, this is the sort of player we want to be bringing to the club, bringing that average age down, bringing some homegrown players in. Now let's find out exactly what rating Stefano is. I'm really happy with that as our first bit of business. So here is Stefano D'Angelo. Really like the look of this man. High, medium work rates. Need to get that defensive work rate up to high. But he looks very solid across the board. I love the high stamina at 87. He's probably not going to be our starting right back, as I would like to bring a first teamer into the club. But he looks very solid as a backup. His growth is stunted at the moment. It does look like if we get him on a good run of form, we can get some growth back into Stefano, and I think that's a really clever piece of business for our first signing. We've had a bid here from Spurs for Brazilian Caio Jorge, and although he's a decent backup option, I think if we can get a little bit more cash out of Ange Postecoglou, I'm happy to sell him as he's on quite high wages. And for 35 million quid, I think we can reinvest that money into somebody a little bit better, because he's also not growing and getting any better at the moment. And I think to close out today's episode, I'm going to make a signing to replace Caio Jorge, who looks like he's heading to Tottenham Hotspur. And I think this is a really good bit of business, this. Giuseppe Ambrosini, currently at Napoli, but right down the pecking order behind their star-studded attack. Only a year left on his contract, so we can get him on a cut price deal. And I really like the look of this guy. He's 6'2", so he's quite big. He's good in the air. 87 strength, as you can see. Really high stat for heading accuracy as well, but he's actually got a bit of pace about him as well. 88 acceleration, 83 sprint speed, good jumping, so good in the air, quick, agile, and a really good finisher as well, with 81 finishing, 81 long shots, and 79 shot power. I think he could be a really good acquisition on a cut price deal. Honestly, one of the best bits of advice I can give when looking for good deals is try and find those players with their deals up come at the end of the season. It makes them so much more of a bargain, and it looks as if we're going to get Giuseppe Ambrosini for way under the market valuation. I still think we can try and get him for a little bit less than 15 million. And yet 14.75 million, and a deal is agreed with Napoli for Giuseppe. Well, quite a high wage of 75 grand a week for Giuseppe Ambrosini, but he becomes our second signing of our summer rebuild. And for just shy of 15 million from division rivals Napoli, I think this could turn out to be a brilliant piece of business. As I said, I think his stats are very good. Maybe the rating doesn't quite match with how his stats look, but really happy to have Giuseppe Ambrosini in, a player I've never ever used before, which I always like to do to mix it up, and I think he is going to be a great signing for us. So Giuseppe is in, and as I've mentioned, I think this is going to be a really good bit of business for us. That signing has actually hit one of our objectives already, to sign 2 young players, so with him and Stefano coming in as well, we've already reached that target, and we still have around £260 million left in the budget, so loads of spending still to come. However, I think that is where we will leave it for today's episode. It's been quite a quick one for this first episode with Juventus, but we're going to come back in the next one, jump straight into the action where we're going to crack on with this summer transfer window and begin our Serie A campaign as we look to rebuild Juventus and get them back on track. I hope you have enjoyed, guys, and if you have any transfer recommendations, leave them down below in the comments. I'll catch you for the next video very soon, guys, and peace.